Think about what a kiss actually is for a second. Stripped of all romance, all culture, all the centuries of poetry written about it.
Humans press a sensitive, mucous membrane-covered part of their faces together, often exchanging saliva in the process.
Described that way, it sounds less like the most universally celebrated gesture of human affection and more like something a doctor would ask you to stop doing immediately. Please stop that! And yet here we are, billions of people across nearly every culture on Earth doing this exact thing, finding it not just acceptable, but essential. And yet,
wedding ceremonies end with it. Movies build entire narratives toward the moment it happens.
babies get kissed constantly by people who love them. We have built an enormous amount of human meaning around an act that makes very little obvious sense. So where did it come from? Why do we do it? And why does the answer, once you actually dig into it, turn out to be so much weirder and so much older than anyone expects? Let's start with the assumption most people carry around without ever examining it, that kissing is universal. That assumption is wrong. And the way it's wrong tells us something genuinely important about what kissing actually is. In 2015, anthropologists published a survey examining romantic kissing across 168 cultures around the world. If kissing were truly universal, truly hardwired, you'd expect to find it everywhere, in some recognizable form, across all. Romantic, mouth-to-mouth kissing was documented in less than half of the cultures surveyed. In several parts of sub-Saharan Africa, Papua New Guinea, and South America, romantic kissing was either entirely absent or actively viewed with disgust when first encountered. There are documented historical accounts of certain groups reacting to European mouth-kissing customs with confusion or revulsion when first introduced. To them, it wasn't romantic. It looked, frankly, unsanitary and slightly absurd. If kissing were a hardwired evolutionary instinct, the same instinct should produce the same basic behavior across humanity, the same way smiling does. Which means whatever kissing is, it is not simply written into our biology the way breathing is. It is, at least in significant part, a learned cultural behavior. Which means where the story gets more interesting, because many cultures that don't practice romantic mouth kissing still engage in something remarkably similar in function. The Inuit practice of the kunnik involves pressing the nose and upper lip against another person's cheek or forehead and inhaling, a gesture of deep affection. It serves essentially the same emotional and social function as a kiss, without involving the mouths touching at all. Maybe the specific behavior of mouth-to-mouth kissing is cultural and variable, but the underlying drive might be something much older and much deeper. Let's talk about where the actual physical behavior of mouth contact likely originated, because the leading scientific theory is, frankly, not romantic at all. It's about food. Many primatologists believe kissing as a physical behavior may have evolutionary roots in something called kiss feeding, also called pre-mastication. The practice of a mother chewing food into a soft, easily digestible paste, and then transferring it directly from her mouth to her infant's mouth. Before processed food, before blenders, an infant with no teeth needed food broken down into something they could actually consume. This behavior has been documented extensively in chimpanzees, in gorillas, and across numerous traditional human societies. This mouth-to-mouth transfer between a mother and infant, repeated daily for months, is intimate, physically close, and deeply bonding. It activates the same kind of proximity, the same exchange of breath and scent, the same physiological signals of trust and safety that romantic kissing activates in adults. Some researchers argue that this maternal kiss-feeding behavior is the evolutionary template from which romantic and affectionate kissing later emerged. The very first kiss you ever experienced as a human being almost certainly happened when you were an infant. Your nervous system may be drawing on some of the oldest, deepest pathways related to maternal bonding and trust every single time you kiss someone you love. Now let's talk about what's actually happening physiologically when two adults kiss romantically. Your lips are among the most densely innervated parts of your entire body, packed with far more nerve endings per square centimeter than almost any other external surface. When lips touch, the brain receives a massive surge of sensory data through the trigeminal nerve, one of the most significant cranial nerves in the human body. When lip triggers the release of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, the same chemical that surges during childbirth, breastfeeding, and orgasm. It also triggers dopamine release, and it can lower levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. A kiss is not just a gesture. It is a precisely targeted neurochemical event.
There's also a less romantic but equally fascinating evolutionary theory about what kissing might actually be doing on a biological level, and it has to do with mate selection. When two people kiss, they are exchanging an extraordinary amount of biological information without either of them consciously realizing it. Saliva contains traces of hormones, including testosterone, and breath carries chemical signals related to diet, health, and hormonal status.
Some researchers have proposed the mate assessment hypothesis, the idea that kissing evolved partly as an unconscious mechanism for gathering crucial biological information.
From this perspective, kissing isn't primarily about romance at all. It's a remarkably sophisticated, deeply unconscious biological screening process. Your body may be running a background compatibility check every single time you kiss someone, and you experience that check as pleasure, as attraction.
Let's bring history into this, because the historical record on kissing is far stranger and far older than most people realize.
The oldest known written reference to kissing comes not from ancient Greece or Rome, but from ancient India.
Sanskrit texts, dating back more than 3,500 years, contain references to people pressing their mouths together. The physical mechanics of the kiss were secondary to what ancient writers believed was actually being transferred. Not saliva. Some historians have proposed that romantic mouth kissing as a cultural practice may have originated in South Asia and spread outwards.
This remains debated and difficult to fully prove, since behaviors this intimate rarely leave clean archaeological evidence.
The ancient Greeks and Romans certainly practiced kissing extensively, but in ways that might surprise you.
The Romans had multiple specific words for different categories of kissing. An osculum referred to a kiss on the cheek or hand, and a basium described a kiss on the lips, generally reserved for closer relationships.
A savolium referred to a deep, passionate kiss, generally reserved exclusively for romantic or sexual partners.
This linguistic precision tells you something important. The Romans treated kissing as a sophisticated social signaling system. Kissing the wrong person with the wrong category of kiss could carry real social consequences. It wasn't casual.
Kissing has always been doing communicative work far beyond simple physical pleasure. It has been a structured social language for nearly as long. Medieval Europe took this even further. A formal kiss on the hand or ring served as a gesture of fealty, loyalty, and submission to feudal lords and clergy. The ritual kissing of religious icons, relics, and clerical rings was deeply embedded in religious practice across medieval Christianity. Diplomatic kisses between rulers and representatives of foreign powers were a formalized gesture of peace and alliance, carrying real political weight. This is kissing deployed as pure social and political technology, completely disconnected from anything resembling the romantic kiss we think of today.
So we have at minimum 3 or 4 genuinely different functions that kissing has served throughout human history and prehistory.
These functions almost certainly built on top of each other, each new layer of meaning borrowing the deep neurological wiring. This is actually a strikingly common pattern in evolutionary biology and cultural evolution. Behaviors rarely evolve for one single purpose and stay that way forever.
There's a particularly interesting psychological wrinkle worth sitting with here, which is the discussed paradox of kissing.
Kissing involves the direct exchange of saliva, a bodily fluid that under almost any other context triggers a strong disgust response in humans. And yet, in the specific, narrow, culturally defined context of romantic kissing, this disgust response gets almost completely overridden. The same fluid, biologically identical, that would provoke strong aversion from a stranger becomes neutral or even desirable when it comes from a romantic partner. It is a willing, deliberate suspension of one of our most fundamental protective instincts, specifically as a demonstration of trust. That is not a small thing. That is one of the more profound things a human body can communicate to another human body. I trust you enough to break my own rules for you. Let's come back to the Kunik and similar nose-to-nose, breath-sharing gestures, because they point to something genuinely important. The specific mechanics of mouth-to-mouth contact may be culturally variable, but the underlying drive shows up again and again. What we are actually looking at is not one universal behavior, but rather one universal underlying drive toward intimate physical bonding. Behavior is the local dialect. The drive underneath it is closer to a universal human language. We asked why humans kiss, and the honest answer turns out to be considerably more interesting than a simple yes or no.
The deeper biological and emotional machinery underneath it is universal, ancient, and rooted in something considerably older than romance itself. The basic mammalian need to physically bond with the people who keep us safe and alive.
You learn to kiss, or to press your nose against someone's cheek, the same way you learned a language.
But the deep need underneath that gesture, the need to physically signal trust and closeness to the people you love, that part you were likely born with. But the part connects you to every infant who has ever pressed their face close to a parent's, to every primate mother who has ever fed her child mouth to mouth. So the next time you kiss someone, or share whatever gesture of closeness your own culture has taught you, it's worth remembering what's actually happening underneath it. So then, you are activating some of the oldest bonding circuitry your nervous system possesses. You are overriding instincts that exist specifically. You are, in some small way, recreating one of the very first intimate experiences of your entire life. The moment someone you depend on learned, before you had words for it, that closeness like this meant safety.
Nobody fully expects that answer when they first ask why we kiss. Most people expect romance, or maybe biology, or maybe nothing more than habit.
What they don't expect is a mother feeding her child mouth to mouth 100,000 years before romance as a concept even existed. The original kiss, repurposed and relayered and culturally reinvented 1,000 different ways across human history.